Okay, here it is, episode 1 of Deepwater Topics. My name is Derek Eldridge,
I'm Frederick Green.
and this is my brother from another mother. We're sitting here. This is our title episode. So, what we're going to do is we're going to introduce ourselves. We're going to talk about our background, how we met, where we came from, what we're doing, and what we plan to do with this show.
Yeah.
So, go ahead and take it away, Freddie.
Well, I'll go first. That was a great introduction, by the way. I just want everybody to know that none of this is scripted. This is all raw. My brother came and visited me yesterday, and we got to talking and identifying a lot of the issues in the world. And I was just like, you know what? Let's start talking about it. You know what I'm saying? He came all the way from Fallbrook. I live in Riverside, and we started identifying a lot of the same issues. I'm sitting there barbecuing, and we're having conversation, and just out of conversation, I'm like, dude, we should start a podcast. And he's like, you know what? I've been wanting to do that, and I was going to bring it up to you. So I'm like, it's crazy how we're on the same page. So the baby started, we started talking, and little by little, hopefully this thing grows into be something special because we both felt it. And this is an opportunity for both of us to talk about some of the things that we see and actually affect some of the things that we see. So once again, I'll give you guys a little bit of background about me. And then obviously my brother's going to tell you about him. So my name is Frederick Green. I come from Riverside, California, born and raised from the hood. I say from the sticks, gang banging, living the fast life. I love my city. I do not down the lifestyle that I live, but it isn't necessarily productive. I wouldn't wish that lifestyle on my children, in which that's why I made changes in my life. But I will never knock the sticks where I come from. But I come from poverty. Much like my brother here, we could tell you stories. If you're from California, Southern California at that, it doesn't matter if you're living in the hills, you still get experiences of poverty because it's all around you. It's the hip culture. Everybody wants to emulate it, but nobody wants to stay there, and I come from it, So for me, growing up, my father heavily in drugs and gangbanging. And I didn't like the drugs, so I chose the gangbanging. So I followed in my father's footstep. Lived a fun, wild life. We're not going to get into all of that right now, but just giving you guys a little bit of background about who I am and where I come from. So in the hood, we're used to shooting and getting shot at. So I was tired. I had my daughter, which is my love of my life. And I said, something needs to change. You know what I mean? I'm like, how can I do that? What can I do? Because I only have two options where I'm at right now. It's either going to be prison for the rest of my life or dead. And I made a choice. I said Army. I chose to go talk to a recruiter. Nobody told me about it. Nobody coached me into it. Nobody in my family other than my uncle and my grandfather, which was a Marine, but he was already older. We've never even talked about his experiences. And then my uncle served in Desert Storm, but we never really talked about his experiences either. So I didn't really have any experiences with the military. And just something in my head said, hey, man, do it. You got to do something. So I chose to join the military. So I go talk to the recruiter. And as the recruiter was telling me, all the jobs that I can do, because obviously I scored decent enough on the ASVAB to where I could have picked the MOS that I wanted. So as I'm doing this, he's showing me videos of the jobs, which is your MOS. And all the jobs in the Army just look whack. Like I didn't want to do none of that coming from the hood. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, that ain't for me. Like I already know I was a little bad. So if you're going to give me a job, I know I'm going to manipulate the job. So I'm looking at it like I'm trying to do something where I ain't going to be manipulative. You know what I'm saying? Something that's going to give me a challenge. So he showed me the infantry video. And I'm pretty sure everybody that went to the recruiter and got talked into joining the infantry got to see the cool infantry video, which they show you the American flag. It shows you everybody running, looking all tough and things blowing up and guns shooting. And I'm like, I already do that. That's what I do in the hood right now. So I want to do that. And the recruiter looked at me because he wasn't an 11 Bravo. He said, you sure that's what you want to do? Because most people, they don't come back from that. And I'm looking at him like, dude, I just want to get out of where I'm at. Whatever that can get me going where I need to go as soon as I can go, I want to do that. So he put me in the infantry. I could say 3 weeks later, I was on a bus going to LAX. The first airplane I got on was to fly to basic training into Georgia. And then this is where me and my brother's journey begins together. because as I'm doing this, I'm pretty sure he can tell you what built him up to get to where he's at, and I'm gonna let him do that. But ending my story, I joined the military, got on the bus, got on an airplane, got to Georgia, never been out of the state of California, never been away from home. I was shell shocked. I was a young black man in a white world, which I was told. And when I got there, it was a lot of white people. So I was like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not in California no more. I had people looking at me not knowing that I was the first black person that they ever seen in real life. We in the showers, I got people looking at me. I'm thinking like, are they gay? Nothing wrong with gay people. But at the same time, they looking at me the way they looking at me because they ain't never seen a black person in real life. And I'm shell shocked. This is 2007. This isn't 19 something. So very interesting when it comes to the racial divide and the racial issues that we have in this country. You'd be surprised how really divided we are. So that experience gave me an opportunity to step outside of the normal mind frame, which I call the hive mindset, which where everybody's thinking the same way, that someone's out to get you, that a culture is oppressing you, that someone has an agenda. So in basic training, I had to lower my guard and trust other people. So I learned how to trust individuals that I never met. And these individuals actually were capable of my trust, and they didn't let me down. So in basic training, basic was hard. I was in Charlie Company, and you were in Delta Company, right? Charlie. I was Delta, other way around. So, but the issue with my company is we were shorthanded. So we didn't have enough people. We had a lot of people quit. So a lot of his drill sergeants were running my company as well. So we had a very similar experience. So from basic training, I got stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And ironically, my brother got stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So the second plane that I got on, I jumped out of, which is pretty interesting. And I tell people this all the time. I don't regret it. The military saved my life. The military gave me an opportunity to freely think for myself. And it also taught me how to follow orders. It taught me how to be a member of a team. It taught me how to put something before myself. And it taught me and brought me closer to people. It gave me family members that I'll have for the rest of my life, because I would never have thought in a million years that I'd be sitting here recording a conversation with Derek Eldridge. But that's my background, y'all. I appreciate y'all listening to me, you know what I'm saying, because I could talk. But I wanted him to go ahead and give his background and a little bit of his bio as well.
Man, I don't know how I follow that up. What's funny is I didn't really put in some perspective, and I just kind of thought about it, you know, thinking about 2007. At the same time, he was going through his you know, process of joining. I was going through the exact same process. Mm-hmm. I did MEPS in LA, you know, and all that. But so a little bit about me. I was born and raised in San Diego, California. I come from a very long line of military background. My family name has been in every war in this country since the Revolutionary War. My grandfather did 32 years in the Navy. My uncle did 32 years in the Navy. He was Master Chief, Master Diver of the West Coast. My father did 20 years in the Navy. So for the most part, you know, growing up, I had strong, you know, male figures in my life. But in the early 90s, being in the military, like the pay wasn't very, you know, wasn't like you were balling. So a lot of the neighborhoods that I grew up in, and even being military background, you know, my dad being in the military, I was around a lot of different cultures and races and ethnicity, you know, from a young age. So, you know, I grew up in predominantly, you know, African American and Mexican neighborhoods where I was the only white boy. So I, you know,
gringo.
You know, I was, you know, I mean, I think, you know, a lot of that, you know, influenced me on, you know, even from just the music I like, rap music, you know, like, so, you know, I grew up in a very loving household. My mother and father, I know they love me dearly. My father was bipolar. So that was hard at times. And when I was 5 years old, I was molested by my older half brother. And that's when, that kind of really broke the family up. From my dad's side, they all took my older brother's side, and everything was just kind of pushed under the table with that. Growing up with, poverty, that's where I learned to hustle. If I wanted a new pair of shoes, my mom and dad weren't going to get it. So what did I do? I learned how to, mischief, go put cars up on cinder blocks and take the rims to the pawn shop and pawn it off. My mom, when she would make me lunches, and I would go to school and sell the lunches for for money. I would come home and, she'd be like, "Where'd you get all this money?" I'm like, "Oh, don't worry about it, Mom." And then in 1996, my dad retired out of Camp Pendleton, and I moved to Fallbrook. And so now I go from predominant, low poverty neighborhoods and low income and, ratchet ghetto shit to all of a sudden I moved to Fallbrook. And Fallbrook,
culture shock.
It was a culture shock. All of a sudden now it's majority white people. But then I go to school and I'm still an outcast because we're low income, and everyone here, most people have money.
Mm-hmm.
So then I still don't fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Coming to a place with money, I mean, I remember, church having to come and bring us bread and milk because we didn't have enough money.
Hey, man, we all got the care package, man. If you've been from poverty, you got a care package.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. And so, but before my dad retired, I went to 15 different elementary schools before I got to third grade here. Moved a lot. And this is where we kind of finally set roots at. And that's when, I started to excel in sports. And just really kind of get roots and grounding. And then after high school, I got a job, working. My dad got me a job at his company, and he, as a graphic designer, I moved out to Temecula. I thought I was balling, I was making like $16 an hour at 18,
That's some money.
And some stuff didn't, my roommate and, friend at the time, some stuff happened and I ended up getting evicted. I mean, we were running wild. We had a 5-star chef that lived below us. His name was Simeon, but every time he came home, I'd be like, "Oh, hey, what's up, Seaman?" We were just fucking with people, 18-year-olds living in a really nice neighborhood, and
out of place.
Just
wasn't
wild.
Supposed to be there.
And not at all. And so I ended up having to move back home, and my family had a fifth wheel in the backyard, like this old rundown fucking piece of shit fifth wheel that I moved out into because that was like my independence, before I got out of high school.
Yeah.
And I got home and I was like, man, I'm like, I can't fucking do it. I'm like, I can't be home. So I went and I talked to an Army recruiter. I went in there and all of them were 82nd Ranger tabbed. All of them. And I took an ASVAB, and I went in there, and when I first went in there, I got to look. I'm like, I want to join the Army. I'm like, but I smoke weed every day. I'm not going to pass a drug test. I just want to put that out right now.
My disclaimer.
And so I did PT with them every day, and every day I would take a piss test in the office until I cleaned out.
Yeah.
And then I took the ASVAB, and I had a 110 GT score. And so 110 GT score really means that you can do
whatever you
want in the military. And I was like, nah, I was a star football player, alpha male. I'm like, I don't want to go sit behind no desk. I'm like, I want to be front line. I want to go experience war. I want to do what other people haven't done. And a big part of it too was I wanted to keep my military bloodline up.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep that history going. And I also wanted to give back to this country.
Yeah.
I wanted to do my part in this place that we live. And so, I got in and they're like, you sure you want to do that? I'm like, yep. And they're like, all right, well, we'll give you a bonus if you ship out by September 21st.
Mhm.
So September 11th, 2007
Mm-hmm.
is when I signed my contract and raised my hand. And
Me too.
3 weeks later,
That's crazy.
3 weeks
Same
later,
same exact time frame, same
Yep.
date,
3 weeks
everything.
later, I shipped out.
Yep.
And it was a shock, being there, but it really wasn't, because my whole life I've been yelled at by my dad.
Mm.
And I had the discipline from being in the military,
That structure.
family, that structure. And it was more of, and then team sports and coaches and this and that, but it was more of a seeing and, getting shipped off to basic training. It was more of a, how do I put this? Seeing the brainwashing in basic,
Things are gonna get real.
Seeing the brainwash,
Mhm.
I was all about it. Don't get me wrong. I was about the military, but the screen, the repetitive this, and seeing how hard it was for other people to grasp onto this.
Mhm.
And me, I'm just like, man, this is easy,
Mhm.
realizing that it was kind of like high school, almost, in a sense of, if you're good at sports, they don't fuck with you.
Mhm.
I was always in the top of the PT,
Mhm.
but I was always mouthy too. I remember getting smoked and being like, "You can't smoke a rock, drill sergeant." Whew.
Too easy.
Yeah, they let me
Too
know that
easy.
you can't smoke a rock.
That's funny.
So I'm really grateful, I joined. A lot of people think that you go into the military because there's nothing else you can do. I'm pretty sure that you are a very skilled athlete, scholarships, school, and this other stuff. But I've met some of the smartest people that, come across, not only in the Army, but in the infantry, because they were mindsets like us. I want to go be frontline. I don't want to go sit behind the desk.
I think I want to spend a little time on this, not to cut off your intro and your bio. Just as soon as you finish up, I want to spend a little time on that statement that you just made, as far as bright individuals, choosing the military, and not just the military, the infantry.
Yeah.
But I'll let you finish.
I'm almost done. Almost done.
No rush at all.
After basic, it's airborne school, and I remember it was my first jump, and I was number one man in the door, and I'm sitting there, and it's going through my head, like, once I jump out of this plane, I'm gonna go to my unit, and I'm going to war. And in my head, I'm like, fuck. I never really took time to think about what I was really doing. I mean, I knew, but then that's when it kind of all hit me of what was actually happening.
Yeah.
And it's, it scared the shit out of me. And I told myself before I jumped out, I said, if it doesn't scare the shit out of you, you're not dreaming big enough.
Man.
And I turned and I jumped out of the plane. And to this day, I mean, even before we went to Iraq, when shit, when I get that uneasy feeling, that day when I was about to jump out of that plane, that's what kind of lets me know, I'm on the right path. If it doesn't scare you, you ain't dreaming big enough. Comfort is where dreams go to die,
I agree.
And then, stationed 82nd Airborne, Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Huh?
Not only did we go to the same division, we went to the same
brigade, battalion,
same
company,
and then same platoon.
Platoon at that.
We join, and not a lot of Californians join the Army. A lot of them go Navy. A lot of them go Marine Corps. And one of my biggest things of why, going Army is I didn't want to join the Marine Corps and get stationed at home. And they wanted to sign an open contract. I wanted frontline, airborne infantry.
Makes sense to me. For me, I didn't want to go Marines because I figured I wanted to go Air Force. But then when I started talking to the dude in the Air Force office, his hands was too soft. So I kind of changed my mind and went back to the Army recruiter office.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my intro leading up to, short and sweet, up to where we kind of met, you know. But I know you wanted to, before we touch back on that topic, you know, we'll do a short topic on that. Let's tell the viewers what our intention with this show.
Cool. Go first.
So, I've been wanting to do this podcast for a minute, and I think a lot of people, and I'm going to say society, and we're going to touch on that later because there's so much to talk about. But a lot of people in society, there's no discussion, there's no real talk anymore. People are too scared to talk their opinions. People are too scared to just even ask questions and find a middle ground. Everything is, you're wrong, I'm right, and it's just really disappointing because, you know, people come to me and they're like, oh, aren't you offended by Colin Kaepernick taking a knee or this? I'm like, fuck no. I'm like, that's what I went and fought for. For you to have your opinion. May I like it or not? No, but that's what this country is people have the right to not worry about getting stoned to death.
Yeah.
For talking about that. And I really, you know, me and Freddy, ever since we were in, we just operated on a different vibrational level.
Yeah.
Of not taking one side or the other, but being unbiased and just seeing from both sides and analyzing and being free thinking, which didn't always work in the military. You know, free thinkers aren't highly encouraged.
Well, it'll get you promoted, but it'll get you in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I wanted to do a show of where, you know, it's two people. I don't see him as a black man. I see this as my brother that would take a bullet for me and I would take a bullet for him. And I think the conversations that we have are just, it blows my mind every time we talk. And I think that this country right now needs to see, you know, that it's not a white versus black or Asian or this. There's no race wars or, you know, it's unity, togetherness. And that if you just go talk to your neighbor, you'll realize you have a lot more in common than what you're just watching on the news. And I can't see a better story of two people really talking than two different sides of the, you know what I mean? Like
the unicorns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really can't.
Yeah, I agree. Well put. And for me, I'm pretty much going to piggyback off of what you're saying. And my intention for this show, honestly, man, I had the opportunity to go places that other people don't. I had the opportunity to see things that other people probably will never see. And in doing those things, like joining the military, I got to see some good stuff, but I also got to see some shady stuff. So it always caused me to, in the words of what these young people say, stay woke. I never really followed what everybody told me. I just paid attention to what everybody did. So for me, going and getting a bachelor's degree and then getting a master's degree and then now pursuing a doctorate in applied clinical psychology, and it's just basically human studies. I've been studying humans all my life, you know, from poverty and having to learn how to eat, having to learn how to get those Jordans, or having to learn how to eat, what's the next meal, where it's coming from. Learning how to get your deviancy, meaning your bad behaviors met, and coming collectively and learning how to do it without letting mom know or letting dad know. And that's a hustler's mentality and a hustler's lifestyle. So for me, coming from all of that and seeing it from the have-not side, and then now being educated and moving up in tax brackets and rubbing elbows with people that are financially stable, I think it's my duty to speak on what I see. And not only what I see, it's also my duty to speak on my beliefs, because I think in 2020, we're not allowed to have them. And I feel like it's up to us as people to stand behind what we believe and to be an example of that. Even individuals that are educated are individuals that are providing services, like these mental health specialists and these doctors, these professors. All of us, we're still human beings. and we have an obligation to humanity. So to me, before I get the degree, before I get the education, before I get the fame, I want to let everybody know that I'm here for real. Like this isn't a game. I'm not here to gain anything from this podcast. I just want to spill my education and knowledge and have it recorded on film, just in case anything happens to me in life. I know that I tried, I did something, and then there's no better person that I could be having these conversations with than this man here, because you guys see us. We're yin and yang, but yet we live a lifestyle that is one of the same. So there will be none of this division. My goal is to eliminate division and to promote thought. You don't have to agree with anything that we say. You don't have to believe us. But all I want to do is motivate you to think. Think about what's going on. And that's what we're going to do here. My goal is to promote thought. I want to cut light bulbs on. That's all I want to do with this.
Man, that's perfect.